Hello, welcome to the Star Eater Astrology Podcast. My name is Athena Reddy and I am an astrologer. If you'd like to get a reading from me, you can go to athenareddy.com/astrology, and in the description of this podcast there will be a link to that and some information about some discounts I have going on this month. Okay, I hate long intros. I really hate long intros. Clearing the throat. I'm not going to cut it out. I don't cut it out. I don't cut it out. I like to feel like I'm actually here talking to you and that I'm not giving you a hard sell on something and that I'm just giving you the facts and the data. And that kind of leads me into, guess what? Welcome to Virgo times. We've just had Sun enter into Virgo and I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to talk about all of the things that I've learned about Virgo over my years of being a consulting astrologer and from studying astrology. And I just wanted to do a tribute episode to Virgo so that we can reflect on it. I really believe that reflecting on where the sun is at every time the sun moves into a different sign gives us a lot of wisdom. So whether you have something in Virgo or not, every single sign has a sort of wisdom to it, and every single sign allows itself to allow us to reflect on that during the year. So we get like these patterns of the year every single year, and we can really see them because the sun, as it moves from sign to sign, I always see the sun as a spotlight. It is shining light on something. It is showing us the visibility of something. It is giving us information that has to do with visibility, that has to do with being able to look at the nuances of a sign. And everybody has a Virgo house in their chart. So even if you don't have anything in Virgo or don't identify with Virgo-ness, there's a place in your chart where Virgo exists. There's a house that Virgo rules over in your chart, right? So every single house in your chart, whether it be empty of planets or full of planets, has a lot of significance because every single house represents an area of your life. You know, every single place is important. So being able to look to where the Virgo house is in your chart, whether you have Virgo stuff or not, is gonna give you some brightening, some lightening as the sun enters Virgo for Virgo season. So yeah, Virgo is the mutable earth sign. And so we have this really interesting thing. It's mutable, but it's earth. Earth, you think, oh, stability, earth. You know, the earth under our feet, the earth that comes up to meet us on our feet, the stability of life. And the other two earth signs are Taurus, the fixed earth sign, and Capricorn, the cardinal earth sign. And so we think about earth and we think about building stability. We think about we think about what's solid. We think about what's real. You know, water signs often represent the emotional reality of things and have this ebb and flow. Fire signs often represent a kind of action and forward movingness and ability to impact the world around us. And air signs often represent like concepts, like this idea of the ether and the mind, oftentimes, right? And our concepts as humans. And then so earth signs, it's supposed to be so solid. It's supposed to represent matter. So how do we process this idea of the mutable earth sign? So what around you moves? What around you that is physical matter moves? That's what I always think about when I think about Virgo, because Virgo has this like reputation that's kind of reductive, about it taking care of details or being very detail oriented is something that always comes up when people talk about Virgo. They talk about detail oriented, organized, and clean. And I think that those are kind of a little bit empty of ways to describe it. It's an okay place to start, but if you've ever met a Virgo, a lot of them aren't clean. Like a lot of them have quite a lot of clutter and may have one little area that is very detailed, taken care of, cleaner than other areas. Like so when we think about like physical matter, what moves in physical matter, it's like the smaller pieces. So the earth underneath your feet that comes up to meet you, that has this nourishing, growing quality, I always associate with the fixed earth sign Taurus, like this bull that's grazing and sometimes charges, but has this like knowledge of the stability of earth. And when we think about Capricorn, we think about this idea of climbing the solid earth or moving through the solid earth, like knowing how to navigate it. But then in the middle of there, we've got this mutable earth sign, which is about all of the things on the earth that are moving, like dirt being pulled into the air and you see all of the little pieces. Or like, I think of Virgo oftentimes of items that are being arranged. Like, it's not the floor of your apartment, and it's not where you want to go in the earth, in the world. It's all of the little things that you have to bring with you. It's all of the things that you're arranging. Like, I often think of a bookshelf with all the little books on it, you know, where like, I feel like Taurus is the bookshelf itself holding the thing, and then the books are Virgo, like the items that you take on and off, and what you want to do with the books in the world, the information you want to have to make an effect on the world. That's the Capricorn part. So we're thinking about Virgo, which is this part of the earth sign triad that's kind of the guy who packs your bag for a journey, right? Like, it's kind of this energy of being really smart, being able to bring the right things with you, being able to gather the right things. And I mean, like, considering it in the earth way in that very simple sense can be really helpful. And it can give a lot of insight to Virgo's ability to pick and choose and have a relationship with objects. Quite frankly, a relationship with objects in the way even Virgo is often associated with the body. Like, a lot of people with Virgo placements can be very sensitive about the details of their bodies, and not in that uber emotional water sign way, but more about this like practical medical thing where they're able to feel a lot at once and be able to analyze it and point to it and be able to feel their body as a set of parts interacting with each other. And I think that's very Virgo, to be able to see the world as a set of parts interacting with each other, having a relationship with each other, like things that are actually real, being communicative with each other, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Virgo is also Mercury also has its exaltation in Mercury. So that's very interesting because it's the only sign of the zodiac in the system that I use. It's the only sign of the zodiac that has, like, where Mercury is in its domain in Virgo whilst also being in its exaltation. The other Mercury ruled sign is Gemini, right? So Gemini is much more purely about the mind. Again, going back to air signs, it's the mutable air sign. So it's this idea of bouncing back and forth between more conceptual things and ideas. And I always think about brainstorming when I think about Gemini, and bouncing between concepts and bouncing between ideas. And then when I think about Virgo, which is also mutable, but it's the mutable earth sign, and the Mercury is exalted there. It doesn't just rule there, it's exalted there. That means Mercury's very, very well in Virgo. Mercury does its best Mercurying in Virgo. And what does Mercury want to do? Mercury wants to deliver a message. It wants to deliver a message between here and there, and it wants to be effective in its message delivering. So I always see Gemini as the Mercury sign that, as a Mercury ruled sign that is kind of loves the idea of the message and going back and forth, and can bring that very swiftly and can do things very swiftly. And then Virgo's a little bit more about, like, being able to deliver that message from point A to point B, but also be able to do it in a way where it has a lot of interest in whether or not that message comes to fruition. I often have the experience of Virgo clients and with my Virgo rising and all of the things I've learned about Virgo, of Virgo dominant people, being people who have a lot of interest in the thing getting done, not just the idea happening, but the practical steps that it takes to get the thing done. I always think that Virgo is really ready to be like, okay, we've talked about the idea. What are we going to do about it? Like, what are the actual things that bring it into physical fruition? I think a lot of times Virgo people kind of can't sit still, or like Virgo is kind of associated with a kind of anxiety or restlessness in a certain way, because sitting around listening to people bandy about ideas that may never come to fruition, I think can be really frustrating for Virgo. I think that it can be like, okay, well, yeah, we talked about the thing, so what are we going to do? And I think that when Virgo might be around signs that are a little more idealistic, or maybe interacting in your own chart, like you have some stuff in Virgo and you have some other stuff that's maybe a little more idealistic or likes to play in the realms of maybe. Virgo's not really great in the realms of maybe. It's really great in the realms of, okay, we talked about it. Now what are we going to do about it? Like, at what time are we going to begin the project? And the Virgo person, or the Virgo part of your chart, will often be really frustrated at just remaining in the idea phase. And that's why Mercury's really well in Virgo, because Mercury really is about the mind and about communication, and Virgo's an earth sign. So it wants to deliver this information from the mind, from the brainstorming, into the actual world. And that messenger space, that going between this and going between that, is super important. It's super important to Virgo. And I think like this idea of Virgo being really organized or clean really comes, like, whether that's true or not, it comes from the idea of, like, it comes from the concept of wanting to put details into action. And that makes a lot of sense to me. A lot of times I think that Virgo people, and I said this before, I know so many Virgo dominant placements who just have crazy messy cars, and then just have another area of their life, like their office or something, that's like very, very organized. Virgo exists in parts. It sees parts interacting with each other. Virgo is aware that multiple parts make up a whole, and Virgo has the capacity to examine all of the pieces of a part and be able to kind of stress test those pieces of the part. So Virgos can often have a reputation for being critical. And I think, like, for a lot of people who don't have any Virgo in their chart, or who don't have a dominant Virgo placement in their chart, when they're around a Virgo person, they're like, oh, I feel picked at. I feel like they're picking at all of those things. And you can often see Virgos showing their love by caring for the details, by pointing out things that might not work, by pointing out things that might break. And so sometimes I think that people feel picked at by Virgo, and Virgo can feel like they're picking at themselves. And so obviously, we can take that to an extreme sometimes where it's not great and it's not healthy, and that really is a difficult part. I think a very mature Virgo understands where its counsel is needed, like a strong mature Virgo placements, and how to grow into the mature version of Virgo planets in your chart is all about kind of picking your battles, in as far as like, who are you giving the advice to, or who are you giving counsel? I always see Virgo as a counselor, right? This Mercury idea of being a counselor. I love Game of Thrones, and I'm thinking about like a really good hand of the king or something, like this idea of having these advisors who really support this idea of the crown, and like that don't mind working behind the scenes, that get a lot of energy and power from not being the person who's necessarily the figurehead or the speech maker, but more the person who writes the speech, more the person who's taking care of details that aren't glamorous, that aren't glorious, that aren't beautiful, but Virgo gets its power from being able to exist in these spaces, these like in-between spaces. That mutable energy is like this in-between space of like what we do behind closed doors, like say in our council meetings, and Virgo caring for details there and helping like the king or the figurehead or the person making the speech, helping that person to do something accurately, to do something effectively. And I think Virgo really takes a lot of pleasure in that. And I think this idea of being the behind the scenes person with Virgo is something that is very typical to Virgo. Like, yeah, I I'm pretty sure Keanu Reeves is a Virgo sun with Virgo rising, and he's a person who, even though he's a star, he is really interested in this idea of, like, in his martial arts, which again, Virgo and the body and the specificity of caring for the body or learning things on the body, that's very Virgo in a practical way. So he's interested in doing some of his own stunts even as he gets older. He has a reputation for being of service to the project around him. Like, he has a reputation for being like the first person off book and being a really, really good role model to everyone else and like not making it about himself. And I think that Virgos really shine, and Virgo placements really can be stars when they're like knee deep in what they love about the details of their work. And then that can really feed them when they feel part of a whole. Like, Virgo really sees things in parts, and they want to understand, and Virgo season is a really good time to understand, like, what is our practical place amidst the world at large. Like, I feel like Virgo season is often a time for people to reflect on, like, you know, what have I been doing that's just for my ego, and that like because we go from Leo to Virgo every year, right? And Leo can be about, I'm putting myself out there, I'm spreading my light wide. And then we come into this like narrower Virgo state where we're like, okay, you know, in Leo season, we had a reflection on putting yourself out wide and like really shining, right? And then in Virgo season, we kind of go inward and we go, who is that person, that light in relationship to everybody else's light, in relationship to everybody else's stuff? So this idea of parts of a whole is very interesting in Virgo to reflect on, and it can be a really great time to go like, okay, what's my place here, and what is my job here? This sort of idea of like, okay, what's next? What is my actual job? What is my actual place here? And this understanding of being a smaller part of a whole is like a very beautiful and nourishing thing to reflect upon during Virgo season and stuff like that. You know, as long as you don't turn too much inward and pick at yourself and be like, oh, I'm not being a good enough part of the whole, or like, how can I give and be of service more? How many more things can I do? It's like, no, pick your battles, pick your areas where you will be of service, and understand which guy you are for the whole. For the whole, WHOLE. Or the HOLE, I don't know. Which whole? It's up to you. But yeah, so that's a really good thing to reflect on during Virgo season. And this sort of idea of like, I don't know, I'm an artist, I'm an actor, and I am a character creator and clown. And this idea of clowning for me, like this kind of, I put myself out there. You know, you put yourself out there in your pure artistic state during a kind of Leo season, or, you know, the Leo part of your chart, or like whatever it is, that idea of shining outward where it is about you for a moment. It is about you being a beacon to attract the kind of people that you want to be, say your audiences or your collaborators. Like, you do have to be yourself in that Leo-y way and take the boldness of Leo to go like out there. But then when you get to the Virgo reflection, the Virgo wisdom, you go, okay, now that I've put myself out there and attracted, like, say, the right audiences or clients or collaborators, you know, whatever works in your work, then you go to Virgo season and you go, okay, now I'm part of a whole. I've been a beacon. I've attracted all these people. And what is my role in the part of a whole? and this kind of idea of being able to have the humility to understand that you are both the beacon that puts yourself out there, but you're also a part of things, and figuring out what your job is. And I think I see, like, that's the thing, people with like a lot of Virgo placements need to be careful that they don't make themselves too small in the part of things, that they have a good relationship with being able to see how big they can be, not just how small they can be, because we have this relationship with parts of a whole, or delivering a message on behalf of everyone. When it comes to Virgo. So I'm seeing a lot of people, whenever I see clients and we're going through Virgo season and that Virgo part of their chart is lit up, wherever you have Virgo ruling a house of your chart, and you take a look there, that's, I think, a lot of times being able to learn how to be more humble and of service in that area of the chart brings a lot of nourishment, brings a lot of satisfaction. Because again, even if you don't have any Virgo planets or any of the planets that feel like they need to be of service so much, and I see the signs that need to be of service so much, I think are Pisces, Virgo, and Cancer. These planets, signs, those zodiac signs need to be of service in a way that it, kind of in a lot of ways sets them apart from a lot of other signs of the zodiac. This drive to be of service to someone they love, or to the whole, or to bring their skills to others, and that sort of thing. And so these signs that are of service, even if you don't have anything in those signs, looking to that area in your chart, whatever house it rules, can show you where the lessons of Virgo, the wisdoms of Virgo, can be really great. It can show you about, you can be of service to that area in your life. So say you have Virgo that rules the second house, right? Then that area of life is about objects. It's about money. It's about what is worth owning. And so those are themes of the second house. And if it's ruled by Virgo for you, even if you don't have any Virgo planets there, maybe those themes are a place where your humility and the idea of learning how to be of service in that area of life to others could be very prominent, could be a huge gift. So I think looking towards the Virgo house in your chart and asking how can I bring my one part of the whole while recognizing there's a whole and there's my part, and that there's a relationship between those things, and that there's a way for me to give in that area, and there's a way for that to nourish me in that area. I think a lot of times people talk about energy in a way where you have a finite amount of energy and people can drain your energy and then you get burned out. And there are areas in life, whether you're introverted or extroverted, where giving to others will replenish you. Because we are, at the end of the day, a very social species who, I'm very introverted. I need a lot of time away from people, but there are areas in life where when I give of myself in the right place, when you give of yourself in the right place, it will give you energy because you're connected to humanity. And it doesn't have to be all of the time, and it doesn't have to be in every sphere of your life, and it doesn't have to be in every group or community you're part of. But even if it's to one person, looking to that house where Virgo rules can give you just so much information about where you can give. I think Virgo is very, very generous with its information. Virgo placements love to gather information and store that information away in case it's practically useful sometime. I always joke, if you have a friend with a prominent Virgo placement and you dare to ask them for their advice in detail, it might hurt a little, but they're doing it all out of love. And I think every Virgo who gathers a lot of information, there's this idea of gathering just a lot of information, and they're oh, we might need that later. And then so when you ask a Virgo, a prominent Virgo person for their advice or for that feedback, it might be prolific and it might be tough to swallow, but they're not really seeing it as information that should be tough to swallow. They're just seeing it as, the more information you have, the more you can sort through this information. Take it or leave it. It's nothing to me. I just gathered the information and I'm just presenting the information. So if you would like a Virgo rising person to look at your natal chart or your transits, or to have a one-on-one consultation with a real Virgo rising person who loves to give you a lot of data to sort through, you can book a reading with me, a Virgo rising, at athenaready.com/astrology. And if you use the code FRIENDS40, you can get 40% off of any of my offerings. So whether that's over a Zoom meeting that I do a lot of my face-to-faces over the internet, or whether it is an MP3 analysis recording like this one, like your own little personal podcast about your chart and about your transits and about, me just answering your questions through astrology. Just use the code FRIENDS40 and you'll get 40% off no matter which one you choose. So I hope you all have a good Virgo season, as they say, and I will be back for a September astrological forecast so that you can all get ready for September and get out your little Virgo notebooks and write a couple of transits down and get a shape of September. But I just really wanted to reflect upon Virgo today because I've learned so much about it over the years. I've really come to understand how being a Virgo rising really influences the way that I get energy from giving. And like, for me, it's just that giving people information is such a huge part of who I am, and learning how to give that information in the right and specific ways is a way that I've found that a lot of Virgo clients and friends have matured into that sign. So I hope that this was a nice reflection for you for Virgo season, and I hope that you look at the Virgo whole sign house of your chart and start to see like, oh, where can I gather data about this area of my life and be able to give it and be able to be of service with the information that I have in a practical way. Okay, bye.